Hi, I'm going to go over how to format a paper and like kind of what we're looking for in the program instead of lines. So first of all, we'll just take a look at this title page, but there are a few things. There's no running head, there's no page number, and if you've gone to other post-secondary institutions, sometimes they like the title page a little bit different. So what we can do off the bat is insert, and if you didn't see this or you're not familiar how to do this, go insert, page number, top of page, and we want it on the right hand side. And if you see, page one has one, and then page two is two, right? So sometimes people like when I was in university, they really liked the title page to not be page one. They liked it to be like broken. But anyways, that's something we don't need to do into, but some of you definitely did go to university and are probably familiar with that style. Um, and so what I did real quick is I went in to, if you didn't see how I did that again, I just went into insert, um, page number, top of page. I picked the right hand side top, and then I put in the running head. This light gray, the light gray thing is showing that it's the header. So it's not going to print out, or that's not what I'm going to see when you submit it as a PDF. I'll see it as black. Okay. Um, you don't need to put the instructor's name of the on the course. So this would actually be the author is Dean Ogren of this paper. Why is that? Well, you're supposed to have an author's note. So author's note is just like saying what the assignment is. This Dean's author's note is quite long. Um, like that would be better. This assignment was prepared for safety program management, instructed by John Hancock. Done. The next thing is author's note should be centered. So if you can't see this, there's a button called centered. Oh, and if you're kind of new to using Word, actually part of your tuition, you have access to Word and Excel and PowerPoint. So there's a separate video where I'll show if you haven't done this yet, you can download that onto your computer and it's part of the tuition cost. Real quick, the purpose, I'll start the introduction and I'm just editing someone's assignment from that I like that has common errors that I see in a lot of papers. So the purpose of the assignment is to outline in detail the elements that will be contained within our safety program. So again, you shouldn't use our safety program because you could be a contractor working for a Regal Agriculture company. So like you shouldn't use first person like us, we, all that kind of stuff because um and I will examine all of these details. Like, who are you? Like, you might not work there in 6 months, and then who wrote the paper? Like, if you have to refer to yourself, call yourself the occupational health and safety coordinator, or whatever the job title is in the assignment. I don't want to read any documents where it's I, right? Like, if you think even like a newspaper, or I guess who reads those now, but if you look at any documents, generally you don't write it in the first person unless it's a personal commentary, right? So this person did a good job with the acronym, so they turned the acronym like this is an acronym. So from now on they're not going to write out this; they're just going to use the acronym. Um, so we will also be put. So like the reader is not doing this. So it's like this always drives me nuts actually. And like pulling in regulations and stuff. Like so like if you've watched some of my other videos, I'm obsessed with the respiratory stuff. So the fall arrest plan will use regulations from other parts of the this that specifically regulate fall arrest, right? So again, the name isn't correct. So the program, which program, right? Like you can just put in extra words so like people know because the reader doesn't know, right? Like they don't know. And then again, this is okay. And I'm not going to go through this in great detail, but um, what I would do is regulation, and then put this in a bracket. And anytime you're using the regulations, do not put the page number on there because there's like a dozen regulations on there. If someone wants to check what you're writing, you should make it as clear as possible of where you're getting this stuff from. The reason for that is if you're trying to implement a safety program at a company that does not have a safety program, a lot of the things you do are going to be questioned. Why do we need to do this? How much is this going to cost? Why is this required? And so on and so forth. So you want to write as tight of a paper when you're working at a company as possible and not have it sound unprofessional, like we, I, any first person things, using colloquialisms or like in today's day and age, like that's just a waste of space to read. Like the reader doesn't want to read that, right? Like you don't want to hear it, I don't want to read it. Did a good job shortening the acronym there. I just am showing two sections. So kind of one thing that really annoys me is when people don't have headers. That's part of APA style. Plus, you're not writing like a high school English paper where they're like, this is how post-secondary is that you have headers. And quite honestly, when I'm marking or any of the other instructors are marking, if there's headers, you're like, okay, this section is worth 10 marks. There's 2 sentences here, 2 out of 10. Because really there's 2 ideas presented for a section worth 10. I don't remember how much the section is worth, but like then it's very easy, like even as the writer, you can see, whoa, this section is really short for how many marks are up for grabs, right? So 10 ideas, 10 marks is kind of the rough idea. I don't count the sentences, but like, so again, we will go over the company in this section, the company's policies and procedures. So like, again, you can learn how to write to be more concise and also not, we will go over the company's emergency response plan. Who? Like you can just change this. The emergency response plan that the company has an event of an incident with fall. So like, I'm not going to do it because it's not fair to whoever gets assigned the fall thing for me to do the whole assignment. But these are kind of some of the common issues. Other things, people not handing stuff in PDFs, handed in a paper in a Word document and didn't fix the grammatical mistakes. So like, it doesn't look very good. One thing I recommend you do is do not write your conclusion or introduction first. Try and write it last, because then the main idea is your paper you should have a pretty good understanding of and go from there. Okay, next thing, just looking at references. The guy has references here, so he did cite the regulations, but again, I did cut his paper down to just a few paragraphs for an example. Is this guy does not have the title of the document, right? So like if we click on this, so the title of this document is fall protection, right? So like we go back to the paper, he should have on here, and then this is supposed to be italicized. The second letter is supposed to be lowercase. So like that's the author is correct. The year publication is correct. That he was missing the title of the document, retrieved from, and then the website, which is fine. Another thing they don't have here, paragraph special when you want to do hanging. Okay. And if you didn't see, I moved over the second line. So that's something like this person should have caught, because they did it to some of the lines and not others. So like if you were handing this report in to me and I was your boss, I would know that you didn't really put a lot of effort into it, because like I'm finding mistakes, right? And like saying PDF, well, where did he retrieve this from, right? So, and you can have that in there. I have a whole separate video on how to reference if you're like, this is beyond me, but like I do have a separate video on that. I highly recommend you do it, because in the program you'll just keep losing more and more marks. And the other thing is our program is really trying to get into like asking people why things are occurring, not just having it like guesstimates, right? So again, if we look at this, U.S. Chemical Health Safety and Hazard Investigation Board. So I'm just going to open this. This would be the title of the doc. Period there. Obviously, this is bolded, so we want to get rid of that. Again, is this format painter. If you copy paste something in like a reference and if it looks, it's got a different font, you can just highlight the font you want, format painter, and then you can do that, and then it'll remove the hyperlink. In conclusion, you just have conclusion right above. So for brevity, you don't need to say in conclusion right after the header, right? Like somebody has already read the header.
Don't waste your time.
Basic kind of issues that I see over and over again is the writing in first person. And again, like in this section, you need to say that. You can just start talking. Like you don't need that. From my standpoint, like whether you're submitting a document to workers or supervisor, lawyers, whatever, try to be concise. People don't want to read a bunch of fluff that has no content. It has no purpose. I know a lot of people learn that kind of when they're in school. I know because I was a high school teacher at one point, and trying to get people to actually write content instead of like just some ideas with fluff was very difficult.